Just say I do.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Behind the Veil, a show that provides insight into the world of weddings. I'm your host, Keith Willard. Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking all about harmony and balance. If you're in the wedding industry, you know that there has been an onslaught of new business. And so we went literally from 0 to 80 in a matter of 3 months. But how do you balance all that new business that's coming in? And if you're on the bride side or from the couple side, how do you balance the idea of planning a wedding with it not taking over your entire life? So we've got a great guest I'm going to introduce shortly that's going to guide us through all of that. But before we get started, let me introduce Marcy Gutenberg with An Affair to Remember by Marcy. Hi, Marcy.
Hi, Keith.
Harmony and balance, honey. I was talking about this earlier. I was like, oh my God, I need it so badly. It's just awful right now. So,
yes.
And I say awful, but I mean, it's all in a good thing because think about all the people that are all about love right now. Everybody is wanting to get married, and that is a good thing. So, well, let me introduce Margot Frazee. I almost said, I already asked her name and I almost got it wrong, who is the owner and creative director of Harmony Creative Studios, and also is a speaker for NACE as well as a bunch of other organizations. She's amazing, and also is a stage 4 breast cancer survivor. So she has a unique perspective on our world. And so, Margot, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here. All right. So, what I love about our show is that it gives me an hour to just kind of decompress and focus on somebody else, which is lovely, and just kind of talk about the world in general. So, tell us a little bit about, Harmony Creative Studios, because I love that name, Harmony Creative Studios, because it does talk about balance and creativity, which we're all about. And, why did you start this business? And a little bit about like how the last couple of years have been.
Yeah, that's a lot of things. I'll try to put it down.
Yeah. I know. Sorry.
It's funny because I started Harmony Creative Studio 10 years ago. So our business has been around for about 10 years. We are a boutique wedding planning firm in Los Angeles, California. When I say boutique, all I mean is that we used to take on between 20 and 25 clients a year. Ever since I started a new venture, which is the Wedding Summit series, that is taking up quite a bit of my time. So now we cap our weddings at 12 weddings a year. But before that, I wasn't always a wedding planner. I was in retail consulting. So I worked for a consulting firm out of New York, but I've always been based here in LA. And I worked for brands like Nike, Lucky Brand, really, really amazing companies. My job was our company was trying to get you to buy something once you were in the store. It wasn't our job to get you to come to the store, but get you to buy once you were there.
Right.
After the economic collapse of 2008, that company was moving away from creative and moving more towards merchandising management. They had like a small army of merchandisers. It was not my lifelong dream to be a manager of 100 at the time.
What are you talking about? We all want to. That's where we all expect to end up. Yes.
But one of the last things that I did for them was a contract with Yahoo. Everyone remembers Yahoo before Google took over the world, their search engine.
Yeah.
And although I was there working and doing things that were like retail, like designing retail products, the only people that wanted Yahoo branded retail products were the Yahoo events and marketing department. That was it for swag.
Oh yeah, I remember.
They were not hot sellers on the open market.
Well, and it's interesting because I did Mark Cuban's 40th birthday right after all of that Yahoo, and I totally understand it because that was a major concern because people are like, oh, I don't want anything with Yahoo on my desk. So I get it.
I like in Yahoo. I mean, Yahoo is a great company. They just tried to expand too fast. And
100%.
Into too many things. There was a weird period where their CEO was Terry Simmel, who used to be the CEO of HBO, and he was trying to push it into an entertainment kind of way. And it didn't really go well. So they just, and the time that I was working for them, or as a consultant for them, I likened it to the Titanic. They'd hit the iceberg. But they hadn't come down yet.
Oh, yes.
They were,
That's
like,
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But because I was working so much kind of in tandem with their events department, I started to kind of do more event stuff and less of my job because it was more fun. Around the same time, several of my girlfriends were getting married, and they were like, "You're doing events, right? You can come and help me." I mean, isn't that how we all get started? Right?
Always.
So I discovered that I really loved weddings. You know, I really loved the personal nature of weddings as opposed to corporate events. And so I, started working, I followed a couple wedding planners in Los Angeles around. They let me do that for a year or so.
Oh, that's
lovely. And then I went out on my own, and it's been about 10 years. And for the first 3-4 years, we were trudging along. Everything was going really great. I'd gotten to a really great point where I was starting to get those clients with, that more aligned with my aesthetic, had a little bit larger budget. Right. Everything was going really well. And then in the summer of 2014, I was unexpectedly diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer at age 34. So it was
34.
Wow.
I mean, it's not even something that, would typically be on your radar.
It was not, no. So,
wow.
Yeah, it for me, it was like, now that people have gone through the pandemic, they kind of have an understanding, which is that my whole world kind of stopped for 2 years.
Yeah.
I had to step back from my business. I had several rounds of chemotherapy. I had radiation. I had 12 surgeries because they ended up finding a node in one of my lungs. So I did 3 surgeries, which ended up with them actually having to remove the top lobe of my right lung, which was fantastic. Which just made the last year and a half very scary for me when there's a deadly respiratory disease going around, and here I am with 1/3 lung. But it gave me a really unique perspective because I had kind of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I had to step back from my business. Then I had to learn how to come back into my business, how to lean on my community, which was something that I hadn't really been doing before. It also taught me the value of, making sure that my boundaries were set, which is kind of leading into what we're talking about today, having harmony and balance in your business. I love the word harmony. But I use the word harmony in my business, not because of kind of what we're talking about. My mother is a master of color harmony and color theory.
Oh.
I actually learned from the master, Suzanne Cagill, back in the day, who came up with the system of seasonal colors. You're a summer, you're a winter, you're a spring.
Oh, so my God, she's the reason for that. Okay, I got you. I know who to blame now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It works great if you do it correctly, if you're really involved in it, but if you're trying to sell a makeup palette for $30 that's based on it doesn't quite work.
Oh my God,
what happened in the late 70s, early 80s. But growing up with that, I always had a sense of harmony and balance and color theory and stuff like that. So that's actually where that part came from.
Right.
But now, after going through cancer, it has another meaning as well.
Oh my goodness. So, well, okay. Well, so the thing is that I feel like it as sad as that process was, it really did give you a unique perspective of not just because you were already in business for 4 years at this point, and so you already had some experience with dealing with clients, and you probably were doing what we all do, which is, I love you. I want to make sure I'm here for you for everything. I'm going to be here 24 hours a day. I'm going to answer every question. And you want me to deal with your honeymoon? Okay, happy to do that as well. And so I totally get the idea that, here comes a life-changing disease, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I've just given away all of my time to all of my brides, and I've left 0 time for myself, and now I'm having to stop and reinvent myself and make sure that moving forward I have guidelines so I still have a life. Yeah,
it was very much that, because I didn't have any children before. I still don't have any children. We just have one manic depressive dog. So, So I don't have that kind of time thing that I have to deal with children, which are apparently very time consuming. But but what I did have when I came back from cancer was a very finite amount of energy, both physical and mental energy. I also had to deal with the very real possibility that I might have a reoccurrence. So I had to have systems in place to, be able to hand off weddings and things like that. That was one of my saving graces that I actually did correctly before my cancer diagnosis, was that I had had a lot of those systems in place. So I just tightened them up after cancer because I saw how valuable they were.
Yep.
But it's funny because I think that one of the pieces that I was missing that I really, really focused on in terms of my own harmony, my own balance, was the onboarding process for clients. And it was better for me. It was better for them. They know what's going on, but it helps me start things off on the right foot, make sure that all of, we're setting boundaries, we're setting expectations, because it's so difficult to right the ship later on in the process. Yeah. And I think right now, I was telling you guys before we came on the air that I've gotten more inquiries in the last month than I've gotten in the last year and a half. Like, they're just coming at us.
Oh yeah, right and left.
And I know that there is this impulse to be like, oh, I got to grab all that money. Well, it's out there. I gotta get those clients, and just kind of rush the process, because we're all not only dealing with the onslaught of more inquiries, but we're also dealing with the fact that we're all back to work and, doing these weddings that have been postponed for so long. But I want to implore people to at least have the semblance of mind to make sure that you're taking on the right clients. Not all money is good money.
Right.
We all know that after last year. And just make sure that you're slowing down enough to ensure that you are onboarding these new clients properly, so that you don't continue this whirlwind for the next year and a half as you continue to work all of this stuff out with new clients. Because that's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see people continue this for a whole nother year and a half.
Yeah. And so, by the way, talking about harmony, one of our co-hosts is missing, Brooke Logan Stoner, which is totally my fault, because she just sent me a text message saying that I didn't send her the link, and I sent it to some random person, FYI. So it's not her fault. If she joins us shortly, it's totally not her fault. So I just want to put that out there. Oh my God, Brooke, I'm so sorry. Please join us. So, it's a well-oiled machine here. But it is true. I mean, the initial conversation is everything. And you do really have to watch yourself with what you say. And as much as you want to be that person that's like, yeah. There are times that if you overpromise or overcommit yourself, you're going to do the people that are already with you an injustice with either their time or with, there's a multitude of things. I mean, I actually stopped taking clients until May of next year, same as you as well, because I felt like my clients, they deserve a specific amount of time, if not more, that I dedicate to their wedding. And I don't want to endanger any of those relationships that I already made, or those people that supported me through COVID. I mean, we all had weddings that moved from 2020 to 2021, 2022. They've been put through the ringer. So if anything, I'm actually spending a little bit more time keeping them. And talking about here. Hello, Brooke. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry about that.
I was watching. I waited for the apology. And okay. So, I've been here.
Oh my God, you look amazing too. You got the bright red lipstick. Oh my God, you were totally ready for this show.
I've been watching Showgirls. You see, I got my print. Ponytail, kind of, sort of. Well.
Oh, so Margot, you're all along the same lines as that. You want to make sure that you're giving everybody the proper amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern was that the clients that have already postponed now to sometimes 3 times.
Yeah, I know.
I do want to make sure that they are still getting the best of me, that I'm not, because I think there might be a tendency to be like, God, I've already been through this with this
Right.
couple. I've already planned this part of it. But then we have to realize that it didn't actually happen. So we have to like kind of make sure that everything's going right. And I think that they still deserve the same level of service, even though you might be sick of their faces at this point. Like and not in a bad way. And then like you're,
Oh, I totally understand.
Tell us how you
you're
really feel,
client.
darling.
people have been around for I usually do not work with clients for 2.5 years. Like,
No.
let's put it that way.
Right.
So
how do you so let's be a little bit more specific. So you have a client that's moved 2 or 3 times. You did the proper onboarding, but then you dealt with COVID, and that is a completely different circumstance that was probably not part of your onboarding. It says, hey, FYI, in case of a pandemic, here are the logistics, or here are the rules that we're going to follow as far as our communication status. I mean, how are you guiding these clients to their new normal?
we basically had a re-onboarding, basically. Like because I'm in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles has had some of the strictest rules through COVID. So 100%. it's not like there was maybe they could have their wedding last fall. Like that was never on the table. So really in March, April, when the vaccine rollout was coming, and they announced here in California that today, June 15th, they were going to do away with the tier system that we'd been dealing with for the past year and a half, and that things were going to go as back to normal as they can for the time being.
Right.
When that announcement was made, we basically made the decision to do kind of a re-onboarding with all of our clients that had postponed, which is, hey, we've gotten this far. This is where you're at. This is how things are going to go. This is how we're moving forward. I also wanted to make it clear to them that some of the blurred lines of communication that had been happening during the pandemic were not going to continue as we resumed regular business.
Smart.
Because one of the things that I did for my clients during the pandemic was I sent them a general, if you need to talk, click this link, sign up for a Calendly, and we can chat it out, because I knew things were moving very rapidly. But that is outside my normal practice. That's outside our normal process. So I had to go back and let everybody know that even though that's what they had been used to, that was a special circumstance, and that was not going to continue, and that this is how we were going to continue. Because I think we all did some things during the pandemic that were not the ways that we used to normally go about our business, because we were all hanging on by a thread trying to make things work. And there are things that you do in an emergency that you don't do in the normal times. And so I think it's totally fine to go back and tell your clients that is not going to continue.
Well, and God, I have a very specific client, but that I was literally talking to daily for at least 4 weeks at one point, just to keep her mental health in a good place, saying that this is not going to be forever. And I don't want to call people every freaking day to be their partial psychologist. I get it. And I actually feel like I missed the boat a little bit on the re-onboarding process. Is it ever too late?
I don't think so. And I don't think that it's something that has to be unique to a pandemic or a cancer diagnosis or anything like that. I think that it's always fine to take, something that a normal person would think of as a new starting point, the beginning of the year, the beginning of your tax season, whatever you want to call it. And just tell your clients that starting at this point, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. We're going to be doing things, whatever. You can't go against your contract necessarily, but there are processes and things that you can do in your business, communication and all of that you might be able to work with if you see that things are sliding away from you a little bit to, help that process. But yeah, I don't think it's ever too late to try to do that reorienting. I think that people are scared to reorient, but think about it this way. Is it scarier to try to reorient and try to put things back on track? Or is it scarier to keep that pit in your stomach for the next 6 months while you deal with something you don't want to deal with?
Well, and and the second part of that is that once you reorient somebody, you have to follow your own rules. You know, you can't go against yourself. If you say moving forward, okay, this is the process, and then you go against your own.
We've had that conversation about me a few times.
No, maybe. Anyway, but so I find it interesting that I'm as much as I love technology, I'm kind of a little bit of a technophobe when it comes to my own business. I feel like the interpersonal connection is what makes us unique. So I love the fact that you brought up Calendly, because how do you get past that point of creating harmony for yourself by bringing in technology that then makes people go to your calendar to make an appointment instead of just calling you and say, hey, can we meet next Wednesday?
I mean, it is part of our onboarding and part of our communication standards that are listed in our welcome packet that we give clients
right
when they come on to us. Here's the thing about technology and contracts. They're the bad guys. I allow them to be the bad guys. I really do, because I say, this is how my calendar is. You need to make, appointments through the calendar, through the system, blah, 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 blah. And I think that what you're saying is you have to hold to your own standards. I know it's really easy to, you're having a conversation with somebody and they're like, okay, well, can we, talk again on Friday, or can we do whatever? It's easy to just do it in the moment, but then that's not a long game strategy, right? So it takes a little bit of, patience to say, hey, go back to the link to my Calendly and schedule an appointment according to the calendar. And sometimes they're like, oh, can't we just do it now? And I say, unfortunately, I don't know what my calendar looks like right now. It would take more time for me to do that than you just to pick a time that works for you. Yeah. But you do have to allow your calendar, your tech, your contracts to be the bad guy. I pay for Calendly. So I want Calendly to do its job. And its job is to make scheduling things easier. So there's not 6 emails back and forth. That's its whole job.
If that horse don't run, honey.
I'm gonna let it do its job. But I have to allow it to happen. I have to push people back to those, technical things. Yeah. We use an online project management system. There's many out there. We use Basecamp, and I am consistently pushing people back to using Basecamp as opposed to sending me 15 stream of consciousness emails that I then have to search for later. So,
yeah.
I did go through
awesome.
I know a creature of habit.
I
know every wedding professional in the world just felt that comment about.
Oh my God, just like hit totally home. I mean, the worst invention ever was voice to text.
Yeah.
I mean, voice to text.
We push all of our clients back to using our system.
Right.
But the important part that I think people miss, wedding professionals miss, is if you're going to have your clients use some system or do some system, you have to explain to them why it's better, why it's imperative to the success of their event to do it that way. Because otherwise it's just you trying to control things. Right. If I say, I don't allow my clients to text me. I'm not a big texter. I don't, if you want to text me and say you're running late for a meeting, that's one thing. But if you want to have a whole discussion about your band via text, that's not something that we do. But some people are just used to that. And so I have to get back into it. But I also have to explain at the same time, the reason that we do not text about, core wedding decisions and wedding planning is because 3 years ago, I lost my phone and somebody erased all the text messages and it was just gone. We can't have that it's bad for your event.
That's about as good as the dog ate my homework.
Yeah.
If you I always tell clients, if you hired me because you saw our portfolio and you heard from your friend who hired us that they had an amazing event, or you came to an event, in order to get that outcome that you want, we have to do it this way.
So we talked a little bit about the brides that have survived through COVID and, getting them back on track, so to speak. Can you give us a little idea of what your onboarding for a new client is like? Because you had mentioned welcome packet and obviously using Basecamp as your program. Can you give us a little bit of insight into how somebody should go about creating an onboarding system?
Yeah, it's so funny because people are always asking me for my exact onboarding system.
Yeah, but it doesn't work for everybody.
That's exactly what I say. And I say, what works for me may not work for you. Because again, I don't have children. I have a large home office. I have a co-working space that I can meet clients. Like, my situation may be different than your situation.
Right.
So what I tell people is that the beginning onboarding, part of your client relationship should serve several functions. It should set up boundaries with you and your client. It should set up expectations, both expectations that the client can expect from you, that they're paying you for, and expectations for the client. And people are like, what do you mean client expectations? My clients understand from the very beginning step of them working with me, because it's listed in my contract. Like, really, the whole last page is client deliverables, which is, if the client does not give me certain information, if the client does not do certain things within a timely fashion, it affects the process.
Right.
Because I want to inspire our clients. Our main client base is busy professionals, doctors, lawyers, people pretty solidly in their 30s. They're hiring me because they do not want to spend 20 hours researching bands. Like, that's kind of their thing.
Oh my God. Yeah. Speaking my language.
Right. So I say to them, even though I can do all of this over here, there are still certain aspects of your wedding that you have to take responsibility for, that I can't do for you, that I need you to tell me in a certain amount of time. And the onboarding process, the way that I go about it, is meant to facilitate that. It's also meant to, as I grew in my business, to cut down on the problems that I was having. And I'll tell you what I mean.
Yeah.
If you are consistently having an issue in your business, right? You are consistently having clients text you when they're not supposed to, or you're continually having a mother-in-law, or not a mother, but like a mother of the bride, or somebody be too involved, or whatever it is, whatever particular problem you find yourself having in your business, make your onboarding process address that problem first thing, so that then you can head it off at the pass. Really, that's what the onboarding process is for, to start the process in a very good place, and all of the boundaries and expectations that I was talking about, so that the entire process does not become, a crapshoot. Right. That's the problem.
Right.
But my crap is different than your crap. I don't know. It's all about finding out what's going to facilitate your particular processes. I can tell you that we onboard clients through our online project management system. I send them a welcome gift, which has our welcome packet in it, because I believe a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down.
Yeah.
Gift is the sugar. The packet is the medicine. It talks about the fact that they can't text me.
Right.
And then I'm literally leaning into that.
I love it. I know, it's love it.
What was that?
I love it. I mean, I love it. I mean, it is. I find so you talk about finding the problems that are happening in your business in general, and make those part of your onboarding. And so one of the issues that I actually end up having in multiple conversations is, I will get a random phone call and they will ask me about a particular vendor or where they are in that process, and I don't have the immediate answer. Like, I have to go back and go, okay, where were we in that process? Because it's 12, 15 brides at the same time at the moment, and so I need to go back and say, okay, where were we on that contract? Because I may have one particular photographer that's working on 3 different weddings. And so I find that interesting, because now I love the idea of, like, okay, figure out a way to create an onboarding process. And I think your Calendly, is it Calendly or Calendly?
Calendly.
I think Calendly would actually help me in a lot of ways that way, because at least then I'm prepped for the conversation.
Yeah, it's funny. We have something called a vendor process sheet. I'm sure every wedding planner, every wedding professional in the world has some version of whatever it is that you want to call it. But we actually share ours with our clients, and not a lot of wedding professionals do. It's more of a back of house thing. Ours just lives on our base camp. I know that like Aisle Planner has a version of that is kind of integrated into their system. We always want people to kind of know where they are in the process, because that cuts down on what I call client angst, right? It's always like, what are we doing? Am I doing what? Are we on time? What would you? Are we, whatever? But I want them to see part of the process. I also want them to understand how involved it is. I think that a lot of wedding professionals lean into the, fairy godmother narrative, where it's just like, it's just going to happen. It's going to happen for you. And I want people to understand that while that's great, I'm happy to do all the work and everything and then present it to you so that you don't have to do it. But I do love the fact that I'm telling my clients that there is actually quite a bit of work involved. Because I think that when you lean into the narrative of the fact that it's easy, or it's no problem, or it's whatever, then that facilitates clients thinking that you're not a professional, that you're not doing an actual job or a career, and that has its own problems.
Yeah, and I do find that, when I make light of a situation, even though I know there's going to be quite a bit of research behind it, I've gotten better over the, because I've been in business 5 years, so take out COVID 4 years. You have to learn as you go in many of these instances about, okay, you got to tell them that there's some research that I need to do. It's going to take me a couple of days. Here is the date I should have an answer to you by. Give them some definition. Give them some timing. And I feel that
shit, give them some hope.
No, never lie. No, that gets you in total. Oh my God, sugarcoat stuff. No, that gets you. Makes you. Well, I'm just saying for the logistics part of it. Yeah, so I totally get it. And so you were just talking about the vendor process. So what is your vendor process?
In terms of what the client sees, or in terms of what I'm doing? Those are maybe two separate things.
Yeah, no, actually a little bit of both, because you said that it lives on your page, kind of out there, so that everybody is involved in it. So what is that process for?
And they're able to see how much progress has been made from the start point, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's just, I'll be really honest with you, it's just a big Google sheet that they can link through on our system, and it just kind of says, these are all the steps that are happening, and it gets checked off, or it says in progress, or things like that. But from a client perspective, because that's one of the big questions that a lot of my clients have when they first come to us and they're interested in working with us is, what is the process like? And I'm very open about the fact that this is our process, right? So let's say we're looking for a florist, right? I don't say venue, because typically I would say 90% of our clients already have a venue when they come to us. It's just weirdly how the process works here, even for full planning clients. They oftentimes don't even think about a planner for some reason until they have the venue, and then they look around and go, oh.
And oh my God, and they lose so much money. Oh my God, they're so. That just ripped my heart out, because
I have a whole cheat sheet on our website about questions to ask during venue tours and contracts, only because people are like, oh, why are you putting all this information out there? Isn't that what they should be paying you for? And I'm like, I would love it, but they're not. They're coming to me after this process. So I want to arm them with some information, because it's just mistakes that I'm going to have to fix later. I'm going to have to explain to them that they have not read their contract correctly. So I'd rather they just know how to do it. But so when they come, when it's time to do florists, I'll say, we have our initial meeting. We have, I don't do a questionnaire for my clients. It's an interview style. I have things that I need to know, but I find I get more information if I do it in an interview style rather than having them fill it out. Because then it's like I make notes all over the sheet and whatever. And so I couple that with a budgetary conversation, and then I go into my extensive Rolodex of the hundreds and hundreds of vendors that are here in the SoCal market. I match them up, style, budget. I give them, per category, probably between 5 and 10 choices. I say pick 2 that you'd like to get more information from.
Oh my God, you two are like kismet. Oh my God, it's exactly literally the same. Oh my God, it's crazy. It makes me happy that I'm actually doing this right, FYI.
Right.
So.
But my clients appreciate that because they want to feel connected to the process. My clients do not want me to do it for them.
Right.
They want to still feel connected to the process, but they don't want to spend a million hours on it. So I've come to this process because it works for me and it works for the type of client that I like to work with. So again, that's important to know the type of client that you prefer to work with. Do you prefer to work with a client that will just let you do whatever you want and then they're just like, show me a wedding at the end? That's fine. That's a different style of product, different style of client. Find a system that works for that.
I don't trust anybody that doesn't care. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Don't lie, just surprise.
Yeah, she doesn't trust anybody that doesn't care. I totally get that. Yeah, I mean, you got to care about your wedding and your visuals. And I love the fact that you talked about your busy professionals, and I totally get the idea of like, look, let me do the research for you. I'm going to bring it down to these 5, and this is exactly what I do. I'll send a list of 5 to 10 people. I'll quickly go through their websites. Send me your top 3.
Yeah.
I will then look for availability and proposal. So, make sure that they're available. So
help you.
Love it. Yes. Love it.
But it also cuts down on work for me, which is the idea of getting information from 10 florists, making 10 florists go through the proposal process. Oh my God, they'd all hate me at this point. Before the client even thinks that they like it. Like I've heard that people do that and they're like, well, I just present 5 proposals. And I'm like, why are you going through all this extra effort? Like, don't your florists hate you that they're constantly spending time on making you proposals that never go anywhere? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But yeah, I think the more important thing is to have a process, whatever your process is, and make sure that your clients know what that process is from the beginning so they know what to expect. So they don't have that angst, so they're not asking you what's going to happen.
I like what you just said there. I like the fact that you just said, look, you don't have to have my process. Have a process. Just write down what is your normal and customary and make it work for you, because and we said this before, one set of guidelines isn't going to work for everybody. Make it work for your business. But I find that writing it down is super important.
Yes, you definitely have to have your SOPs, standard operating procedures, for those of you not familiar with the acronym. You have to have those written down. That is actually something that saved my hiney when I had to hand over several weddings to other planners to continue because I had to go have chemotherapy and I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. They had to know where I was in the process and what the clients expected. And it was a lot easier to hand them, send them the PDF of our SOPs and the login to my Basecamp, and the professional people that my peers that I handed off to were able to figure it out, because it was all laid out in front of them. I think that if you have a business, and a lot of wedding professionals are solopreneurs, or like myself, I have an assistant that's worked for me for many years, but she's part-time. It's mostly me. I'm the face of my business. I'm the person that does most of the work. Let's be honest. I think that if you have a business like that and you do not have some processes, you do not have some things, without you, your business doesn't work. And so therefore it's hard to scale. It's hard to sell. It's hard to train people. It's hard to do anything like that. But it's also hard for someone to help you if you need it.
God, I love you. I'm like, oh my God, seriously, I am
like you have something in common.
I just I feel
we're
like
all kind of speaking the same language.
I know. I feel like we're twinsies. And like literally, it's like same kind of client, same process, same. Like I feel like, oh my God, one of the things that I need to do better, by the way, is write it all down. I haven't gotten to a point where I have everything written down. So that's what I wanted to ask you next. So when you started dealing with you had to go in for chemo and you were literally trying to save your own life. when you started to get back into the business, were you scared?
Yeah, of course.
You know, because of restarting, and you know, does it dredge up? And I hate to say this, but does it dredge up, you know, feelings of you know, your clients saying, you know, okay, is everything going to be all right? And I have to say, look, life is not perfect. Life is messy. We never know what life is. But you know, what you should draw on is the fact that the weddings that I did have to hand over were handed over smoothly, and they ended up being brilliant because of the work that I did.
Right. I chose to keep my personal medical situation personal for many years.
Oh, wow.
As in, the people that were close to me, vendors, people who needed to know what was happening did, and those who didn't. I didn't put it on social media or anything because I did feel this pressure of not wanting to put my personal issues and contribute to client angst, first of all.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed on a Tuesday. I did a wedding that Saturday.
Oh, shit.
I think that couple still doesn't know anything about it. Like,
well, they do know.
Yeah, there's no point. There's no point, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's only within the last couple of years, because people were asking me to speak about my experience, because people were asking me to talk about the processes that I use to both keep my business afloat and come back into it, that I've really been more open about it. But I'm also 7 years removed from my diagnosis now. So it's a little bit different than when I tell people, if I would have told people, 2 years ago I had stage 4 cancer, like that's a different conversation than me saying like 7 or 8 years ago it's happened.
Right.
The farther away that I get from it, the more I can talk about it. It doesn't mean that it's never going to come back, but it also doesn't mean that I'm not going to get in a car accident tomorrow. I live in Los Angeles, you know, that's statistically.
I was like, wait, if I move to LA and I get in a car accident?
That is still how I'm likely to die, as opposed to cancer.
Wow, what a positive outlook.
So I used to drive like an absolute maniac. Like I'm not even gonna kid you. I used to drive like a maniac, and I did that for years, and I scared the crap out of everyone that was in the car with me. Not a bad driver, just a super aggressive driver.
Awesome. Yeah, super offensive. Yeah.
Right. Super aggressive. I grew up in LA.
Funsies, I'm just telling.
Never when I'm driving your car, look good.
Over the last 7 years, I have toned that way down, because I thought to myself it would be real stupid to have gone through all of this treatment and all of this stuff and then to die in a car accident because I was speeding. Like, that's stupid. So,
very fabulous.
I
have a question I want to ask you, actually.
Sure. Absolutely.
When you came after you went through all the chemo and everything, and was there anything you were afraid of or unsure of that you used to be able to do, like with your eyes closed before all this happened? Did you have any like reservations? Was there anything that scared you or ticked you a little bit to make you think that maybe, anything at all?
Yeah. The biggest thing is that I didn't even get the cancer diet out of it. I actually gained 60 pounds because of all of the hormone.
Yeah, I know. She said cancer diet.
Yeah, I did not get a cancer diet out of it. And I can joke about it because I've been through it. So just,
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. I get the eyeball sometimes when I use that term, and I'm like, okay. But because I was on a bunch of hormone medication and steroids will mess you up.
Oh, yes.
So it's so funny because I was taking a chemo that made me so tired that I literally could not get out of bed in the morning. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we're going to give you some steroids to combat that. But the steroids were like up at 6 a.m. putting IKEA furniture together, and there was no middle ground.
And now we're going to have a beer at 5 p.m.
Oh, God, that's so true.
When we moved into our house was when I was really on like the really hardcore steroids, and like my husband was like, he was still at our apartment over on the west side, and he would come over here and be like, you put everything together. And I was like, well, because I was up at 6 a.m. like a maniac because of steroids. But
oh my God. Well,
because I gained, to answer your question, because I gained all that weight, I was my body was very different because of the weight gain, because I'd had surgeries, I've had a mastectomy, you know what I mean? Like, there's been a lot of changes to my actual physical form.
Right.
And because of that, it was interesting to see how my body would react on my feet for 12 hours a day. Is not as easy as it was before on wedding days. So that part of it scares me. I've tried to work on it, but I've not been as successful as I would have hoped to have been. The first 4 months of quarantine, I lost 45 pounds, and then I got so depressed that nobody was able to see it. I gained half of it back. So
God, I love the fact that
you saw it.
Oh, I love the fact that you're just so open. I mean, I just love the fact that you're just laying it out there, because I think that there's a lot of people out there that are going through kind of the same thing. And I, you know, as a personal story, I mean, I had hepatitis C, and I had actually gotten to stage 4 liver failure to a point that they were about to put me on a transplant list. And then all of a sudden Harvardi and all these amazing drugs came out, and all of a sudden it was poof, it was gone. But there is something about having to deal with the idea of your own death that makes you go, I gotta shut up and start really appreciating what's around me.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm 6. I've lived now 6 years longer than I was supposed to.
Don't you love that? Oh my God, I love saying that, because it's like, oh my God, it's a bonus. Every day is a bonus. I mean,
I'm
not
still
every day.
pissing people off, you know.
but you know, I totally get the idea of, like, find your balance, pull in your onboarding, control the narrative, because I feel like all of what we're talking about is controlling the narrative so that way you're not having all of this additional conversation going on that takes a lot of when it could be very simple and straightforward.
Set the tone and don't answer the phone, honey. I mean, that's what you got to do. From the get. Did you get that, honey? From the get, though. Not 3 months into it when you're annoyed.
So I wanted to find out, like, okay, so you had breast cancer, but before you had breast cancer, you already had put some policies or SOPs into place.
Yes.
Afterwards, did you put additional ones into place? Or
Yes.
Okay. Because I know, like, you know, people with autoimmune diseases, we have a term called the spoon theory, where you only have so many spoons in a day, and you have to use each of those spoons to maximize your time. So I know for me, I put a lot of things into place so that I could maximize my time. How did you adjust to that after the breast cancer?
One of the biggest changes that I made was time blocking and day blocking my schedule, you know, which is that on Mondays, I don't take any phone calls. I don't do any tours. I don't do anything. Monday is the day that I'm in the office, plowing through work, all of that kind of stuff. I only, if I can help it, unless it's, you know, whatever, I only schedule meetings on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. You know, I mean, I went about blocking my time a little bit much more efficiently, only because I understood that I would have less energy, again, both like mental energy and physical energy. And I wanted to spend more time with my husband, spend more time with my family. My poor husband got put through the ringer. I mean, he's the one that dealt with all the insurance and, you know, sat in the hospital room for hours while I was out cold. I didn't know how much time had passed, you know, but like
your appointments,
right? Like
very much needed Margot time.
So he got put in the ringer, and I'd like to actually now spend time with him. I did not know we would be spending quite so much time together last year, so I don't so much have that particular feeling anymore. But you know, now I'm just pushing that off to my parents because had to go long stretches where we didn't see them, you know. Right. But it did make me reprioritize where I was spending my time, because I think that I was definitely in the camp, and I still am now, and I fight against it every day, where my business is my child, you know, because I don't have children, and I look at it as my baby, and I put my heart and my soul into it. Yep. And I've been trying to make a conscious effort to not have my business be my life, because I think that it was for a long time, or I was trying to make it that way. And then cancer happened. And then I was like, oh, I got to get back into it, and I got to like recover. And then But now I'm trying to get to a point where I'm working on more on my actual life than my business, which is a hard thing to do, but it is a reprioritization. Yes.
So you're saying that harmony and balance is a process that is not instantaneous over one SOP. I got you.
It's like my arithmetic.
So Margot, this has been fascinating. I hope, I'm going to go to a quick sponsor, and then we're going to be back for After the Veil. I hope you stay on with us.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Right, and I come back later, just like when we started.
Okay, here we go.
Meet Good Shuffle Pro, software built specifically for event companies of all types and sizes. Whether you're rental, design, big, or small, we're Good Shuffle Pro. It's nice to meet you.
I chose Good Shuffle Pro specifically because of the ease of all of its functionality. It was just absolutely efficient, and I was just so happy. It was like a breath of fresh air and a huge weight that was lifted off of me.
And we're back. Oh my goodness. So, I mean, I know, right? Hello, Good Shuffle. I know, right? We love Good Shuffle. Actually, they're going to be on the show in July. So I'm super excited about having them on the show. So, and we'll get to hear all about Good Shuffle because it's so much more than I even anticipated because it's grown so much. So now this is the fun part where we get to just, talk about, well, sometimes it gets serious. Who knows? But when you were first starting your wedding business, right? You got into this, and so I got into it through nonprofit. I got into it because I was doing parties to raise money for the not-for-profit that I was the executive director of. So, and that's how I got into the world of events. When you first opened your company, where am I going with this question? So I recently had a conversation with somebody that was just starting out, and their price point was ridiculously low, like lower than mine when I first started. And I thought I had a low price point. Wow. Did you fall into that mistake of having an introductory price, so to speak, to get you some experience in the world? And then how did you start increasing it? Because I think that a lot of people get into this, well, the expectation of their price point is here, and they now have the history, the experience, et cetera, to get their price point here, but they're almost afraid to raise it.
Right. I think that people get into the same trap that I myself was guilty of, which is I could not possibly charge X because I've only been doing this for a certain amount of time. And right. I think that's accurate, but we don't have to make it as low as people do, right? And the reason is that when there's a certain really low price point, that's the bottom. It just kind of brings everything down. Yeah. So yeah, when I first started, the first couple weddings that I did, I didn't even charge for because I was trying to get experience. Like that's how dumb I was.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But I still,
God bless you.
In all fairness, I was still working part-time at my other job. So it was not like, 100% focus of my time at the time. Right. But when people come now and say, because I do the summit, we have a lot of beginners that right. come to the summit and ask questions, and I find that they do have this. They do have the same mental blocks that I did 10 years ago, which is I couldn't possibly charge that much. And I want to say that you have to, in your market, figure out what is an acceptable entry price point. Right. And it's probably more than you think you can charge, because we always want to lowball ourselves, especially women. Women have a big problem with this. Women have a big problem with kind of lowballing our.
Oh, 100%.
Well, that's because of the way we're treated and taken advantage of because we're women and we're not strong and we don't know anything about anything. Right? Yeah. Especially down where we live.
So, I always, and the vast majority of wedding planners are women or female presenting people. So I always tell them that you have to understand kind of stuff about your market. Right? Because I think that one of the mistakes that people do is they come in and they just look around at a couple of people and they're like, well, that's what people are charging, so I'll charge a little bit less so that I can sneak into the market. but all that does is devalue the industry as a whole. It also presents you as the bargain option, which I don't necessarily think anybody wants to be known as. I didn't want to be known as that. So as soon as I figured that out, I did start raising my prices. It was not until after I came back into my business that I started using the pricing structure that I do now, which is more algorithm based, which is we have a set, you cannot have a wedding with me that is any kind of planning that's not month of coordination that is less than $6,500. That is the minimum amount that you'll pay me. And then we have an algorithm that adds on to that based on factors that are
how many vendors you need, what kind of vendors you need. I totally get it.
The first thing Keith taught me was, in one sentence, two things. It was never work for free and know your worth.
Yeah, never work for free and know your worth.
It takes being in the business for a couple of years to like get to that point. Sadly, it's also why you never appreciate your teenage body until you're 40 years old. I mean, you never like.
What? Oh, me.
It's the same kind of concept.
Oh my God, preach.
I love it.
Boys never look this good, honey.
What I would give to have the body of the soccer playing me that was in high school.
Oh my God. I actually just wrote a big response on Facebook when somebody's like, oh, what do you do for day of if you're doing day of? And like, I just started like, writing stream of conscious, like how does my day start all the way? Oh my goodness. And it was crazy when I saw my own list and I was like, and I do between 30 and 50,000 steps at a wedding. I mean, that is never sitting down. You're up all continuously. You're dealing with multiple personalities. I mean,
our timelines are done. Like I usually have 2 shot in the eye like me right now. So there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Like 2 pages day of, we're every 4 minutes, every 5 minutes I have
another task.
Yeah.
So
I always know what time it is.
You asked how I increased my prices.
Yes.
So you're gonna think this is hilarious, but I got this from a photographer in my market. What he was doing was because he's newish like I was, and he said every client he just raises his price $100. And it was an interesting concept to me. And so what I did was I said, everyone I booked, I raised my price $200 just because planning is a little bit different than photography.
Yahtzee.
I heard that on the seminar, the series.
But it's like, what I wanted to do was know in advance, right? Because we're always like looking to the future, which is if I book 5 weddings, by the time I get to the 5th wedding, I will have the experience of the first 4. So I need to charge more. It's hard for people to like have that kind of foresight because they're always in the now. Right. So I was trying to realize that I needed to charge more consistently for every, wedding that I booked until I got to that place that I felt good about.
Right. Well, one of the things I just signed a full planning contract, and it's really interesting because this is my 4th wedding with the same family. So cousin, sister, niece at this point. And they were my very first client, which is fascinating because now obviously here we are.
This is gonna be fabulous.
Oh yeah, no, but here we are 5 years later and my pricing structure is dramatically different. And what I found fascinating is that they didn't even blink. Because they knew, because they had been with me and following me this entire time, and had seen the progression of the kind of weddings that I was doing, and better. But because we're almost out of time, but I want you to talk about your summit. Oh my God, we got through the whole thing and we didn't even talk about like the thing that you're doing. That is amazing.
Yeah. So during the pandemic, when I literally here in Los Angeles could not work on weddings. There was nothing to be done. Like there was no planning to be done for like 6 months. Right. But after the summer of 2020, when we postponed again, and I knew there was going to be this long stretch of nothing to do, because I'm a masochist, I decided to start a summit because I'd been to a couple of online summits and I really loved them. And I was excited about the opportunity to dive deep into a topic, because when you go to a Cater Source, which I'm speaking at, Wedding MBA, which I'm speaking at, there you have a lot of knowledge, right? But sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming. So I thought that the online summits were a great opportunity to dive deep into one thing. So we did our first one in February, which was all about community. Because if I'm being honest, community was the thing that helped me get my business back into shape. And so I wanted everybody else to lean into community. We talked about networking, referrals, all this kind of stuff. But the number one topic that people said they wanted to learn about was wedding design. So our next upcoming summit is all about design, and it will be August 2nd to the 6th, so the first week of August.
Yep.
I know that's the same week as
So sorry, I'm so busy that day.
I know that's the same week as NACE Experience, but you have the option of purchasing an upgraded pass for ours, and you can watch the videos whenever you want.
That's
later.
what I'm planning to do. I did
There you go.
the initial
You watch mine,
summit.
we'll watch yours, girl. How about that?
I
There
did
you
the
go.
initial summit, and it was amazing. I got so much out of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So-
Each day is going to be a different deep dive. So we're going to talk about brand design, design development, how to put a design together, selling design, which is going to be a big day. We're going to have demonstrations where people show different design things. We're going to talk to some design legends, real legends in our industry.
Yeah.
So it's just a time to inspire. Hopefully people can pop
Do you have a
in.
list of these celebrities?
Yeah,
by
right,
chance?
exactly.
What's that?
No,
Do you have a list of said celebrities?
she's like, here, we want to,
We only have a couple confirmed, so I don't want to give the whole list yet. But
Yeah.
all the information will be put out on July 12th, so everyone will know
It's my dad's
everything about it July 12th. If you want to get on the mailing list, you can just go to WeddingSummitSeries.com and
That's
get
easy.
on the mailing list. Yeah,
So
WeddingSummitSeries.com.
Wedding Series. Wait, say that
Wedding
again.
Summit Series.
Say
Wedding Summit
WeddingSummitSeries.com. WeddingSummitSeries.com.
Say that 5 times fast.
Margot,
Yeah, yeah.
you've been a real pleasure. I just loved our conversation. I just really think that there was some really incredible information out there. And if anything, I think it reinforced a lot of the ideas that I already had. And hopefully it helps some people that are fairly new into the industry or just recovering from the industry to figure out a way to, move forward in a way that allows them to have both balance and harmony. So I thank you so much. So next Tuesday, join us here Tuesday at 2, and we will see you then. For now, bye. Everybody say
Goodbye.
bye.
Bye.